Hey everyone, how you doing? It's James again. Welcome back to the Leading to a Higher Altitude podcast. I'm your Interfraternity Council Vice President of Public Relations here at Embry-Riddle, and I got a bit of a special episode this week. So, last weekend, my chapter had our 55th anniversary since we got chartered at Embry-Riddle. The exact date was March 6, 1971, but we had to celebrate it a couple weeks later just to get everyone in town, which there was no worries. It was a great time. But anyways, on the podcast, I got a couple special guests. Charles, starting off with you, how about we all introduce ourselves?
Hi, I'm Charles Bellett. I'm the current consul of the Eta Iota chapter here at Embry-Riddle.
And then Ryan or Damiano, whoever wants to
Sure.
go first.
Yeah. Ryan Wakefield. I was a former student at Embry-Riddle. I was initiated into our chapter there in 1995 and currently have the honor of working for Sigma Chi International Fraternity.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicholas Damiano. I'm the former Associate Director of Fraternity and Sorority Life at Embry-Riddle. I was there for 5.5 years, and I'm now the inaugural Director of the Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life at Florida Atlantic University.
Awesome. Well, now that introductions are done, three of us in this call, there's four of us, have been Sigma Chi's. Damiano, or Nick, you're a Lambda Chi, a proud member from what I've heard. So my first question to, I guess, everyone is, if the Sigma Chi fraternity has affected you in any positive way, how would you say, what's been, the most impactful thing that this fraternity has done for you guys?
Yeah, I can go first. This is Charles, by the way, for people who need to recognize my voice. Obviously, I've been here since fall of 2022. That was the semester that I pledged and got initiated. That was about 3.5 years ago, almost 4 years ago. I can confidently say that Sigma Chi has changed my life, and if I did not pledge and get initiated into the chapter, I don't think I would be where I am today without it. It really just served as a foundation for myself on how to live my life, providing me with virtues and values that I can live my life by and always strive to achieve. But most importantly, the main thing that I took away from it is something that our headquarters always preaches, and that's values-based decision making. That's always something that I keep in the back of my mind is whatever decision I am making in my life, whether I'm just in my class or I'm in a very important meeting or whatever it is, living my life, whatever decision that I make, I always try to attribute to the values and the virtues that I hold dear to myself.
Yeah, for myself, I actually graduated college with a degree in elementary education. And, 5, 6 years into my teaching, I had a major career pivot and I went into a management role, really with, no management, training formally. But luckily, I was able to have been trained through our Sigma Chi Horizons program as a guide to lead that program. And the training that I received there, and the guides go through about 80% of the program that our undergrads do, I can say is what I've used in my career now for the last 20 plus years of how do I manage teams, how do I lead teams, communicating and organizing and facilitating change. All of the wonderful things that we teach our undergrads are literally what I use every single day leading the teams that I have the opportunity to manage.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'd say for me, so if you guys have ever read the Norman Shield, all of our brothers have. Even if you're not a pledge of Sigma Chi or a brother, I do encourage you to read it if you feel to do so. It's on Google. It's public knowledge, but pretty much our 7 values of our fraternity and living by our ritual, those have really helped me become not just a better student and a better brother, but a better man at the end of the day. I walk throughout my life remembering all the stuff from the ritual, living by that ritual, which I remember getting initiated, which today is the 28th. I have been a brother of Sigma Chi for 370 days now. I know the exact day, March 23rd, 2024, is when I got initiated, and it was probably one of the best days of my life, second to graduating high school or having my first solo. But throughout IFC, really encourage all the members and Panhellenic as well to encourage all of our members to live by their ritual. And I feel like just seeing myself and all the other brothers in my chapter living by their ritual makes them better people. And same with every other chapter, like Brody, the IFC president, he lives by his ritual, and I've seen him grow over the past, I don't even know how long I've known him, like the past year and a half or something like that. I know you guys can attest to how good he's done for IFC and the whole community as a whole. but I can feel like he's living his ritual to the fullest, and you know that's really important to him, and it's important to us because it makes IFC better. So, yeah. And Damiano, you got anything to say?
Yeah, this is kind of perfect timing, especially post 55th. Um, Going into it, Sigma Chi has done a lot for me. It's one of the first organizations to have introduced themselves when I started at Embry-Riddle. And the organization has taught me a lot about what it means to be a proper gentleman and a proper leader, and that's in every single sense. So whether it's on campus, off campus, in class, out of class, no matter what. And I do think that is the one thing that I have seen with this chapter is no matter what, they live by their values in every scenario. It has also brought me a lot of joy and pride as a higher education administrator, and especially in the fraternity and sorority world. This chapter has really become, in my opinion, a model chapter, or really a blueprint of what it is to have a chapter that has balance in everything. So fundraising, community service, social, ritual, everything. Especially after the 55th, and actually Ryan Wakefield sent me an email about a connection piece, and he said it was really great to see how the brothers celebrate their love for you. And that is something that I really didn't realize until after I left. I mean, I felt it in the moment, of course, but just to see how much of the actives, but even the alumni, how much love they have for me. A really funny story: when I was at the house event on Friday, Greg Dazinski came up to me and he goes, I want to introduce you to someone. He didn't know my first name at all. So he just said, wait, like, what's your actual first name? And I said, oh, just call me Nick. But it was just so funny because even an alumni who graduated so long ago even called me by my last name, which is a really big signifier of a Sigma Chi. But again, they have done a lot for me. Yes, I'm a proud Sigma Chi Alpha through and through. I love my fraternity. But I will also say that Sigma Chi, especially the chapter Embry-Riddle, has a very, very, very special place in my heart.
Yeah, and going back to what you said about how you see our chapter living our values. So in order to get a bid to Sigma Chi, we have to see that a P&M, which for those of you guys who don't know is a potential new member, follows the Jordan Standard, which are 7, I guess, ideas or traits that a man has in order to become a Sigma Chi, and one of those is with ambitious purposes. And I really see, especially around campus, that the guys in our chapter really exhibit that the most. We have a lot of people in the different honor societies. We just had, I believe, 5 get accepted into Order of Omega this semester alone. We have people on IFC. Right now it's me and Lucas as the Sigma Chi's. Last year we had Ryan, and then the year before we had Braden and Will. And then also for our fundraising as well. Our goal this year is to raise over $100,000 for the Huntsman Cancer Institute. I can say with almost utmost confidence that we will reach and beat that goal at the end of the day. So just seeing all of that, seeing the work my different brothers put in, and even though I may be on IFC and I'm not really as involved in like philanthropy or these like community service things in our chapter, just seeing it from the back and the IFC perspective, I'm really like, wow, this is what I was a part of for like the past 2 years of my life. And I can say 100% that I made the best decision by, picking up that paddle on bid day and becoming a Sigma Chi a couple weeks later. So, yeah.
I have a question for you, Mr. Damiano. Talking about how Sigma Chi has affected you, I don't know, since you left us in December, what kind of experiences have you had with the Sigma Chi chapter down at FAU, and how has that had any effect on you?
100%. When I was looking at jobs, and especially different fraternity and sorority communities, I was very strategic in the makeup of the community. And yes, there's a Sigma Chi down there, but as a fun fact, I have 3 of the 4 sororities that I had in Embry-Riddle. So again, that was just another addition. But working with the chapter down there, they, funny enough, were actually one of the first chapters to reach out to me. It is by coincidence that the IFC president, Colby, is a brother of Sigma Chi. I think that timing is perfect. The chapter executive board, incoming and outgoing, actually invited me to a great dinner just to get to know me and pick my brain on my experience with Sigma Chi, Fraternity and Sorority Life, and the vision that I have for Florida Atlantic University. And it was just a great conversation, and they have some absolutely great bones. I mean, I say it's a lot, just good bones. Their fundraising arm is their strongest. I mean, it really is. The work they put in just this past a year, or really just less than a month ago, almost $130,000, right? Or probably over it, which is just amazing. But they really work hard. They really put that fundraising arm at the forefront. I also do think that they are on the precipice of really discovering what it means to be a Sigma Chi at FAU after they're just about to celebrate a little over 10 years, if I'm correct. And I really do think with this new direction and energy of Fraternity and Sorority Life at Florida Atlantic, I think they are going to jump on this wagon of excellence. As you all know very well, that is something that I instill in my students, is excellence in everything you do. And they have really caught on to that just in my 3.5, almost 4 months there of, we want to make sure that we are the organization on campus that does excellence in everything that they do, and that also spreads across campus. But really, they have just been a joy to get to work with. They just actually this past weekend. So when I come back in the office on Monday, actually probably today or tomorrow, they're going to have their new head table installed, and I am really excited to work with this new head table. Junior is going to be the new consul. He is just a great leader. Actually, their now former consul, Aaron Fayette, is a Balfour winner for his regent, which is fantastic. So I have a FAU one, and now we have also Sterling Stein with Embry-Riddle, and I'm just making the joke that, man, Balfour's every day, but it's special. It really is special.
Yeah. So, speaking about FAU, a fun fact about that, I bet you guys all know, but our international sweetheart, Kenzie Loomis, she goes to FAO, speaking with her at 55th. And she was telling me like how she really liked how our alumni base was so massive, how we had all these people show up. And she's like, my chapter may be young now, but she really hopes that in a couple years that one day that her chapter's 50th anniversary will end up, being like ours, which I really do hope. So I wish every Sigma Chi and every single Sigma Chi sweetheart gets the chance to experience something as profound as we did last weekend. Like at the banquet when people were doing those speeches, I was on the verge of tears just knowing that, 55 years ago, before I was even a thought, these people were so dedicated to this chapter. And then, 55 years later, I come around and now I'm carrying, sitting in their footsteps. Me and Charles both being on head table for our chapter. We're, the ones, helping the chapter get through the times. And actually, we're holding our head table elections tomorrow. So our terms are almost done. Charles, you're about to go fly in the Air Force. You're going to have a great time. Do you know what you want to fly yet?
Whatever they give me. I just want to fly for the Air Force. So, but you were hitting on the 55th anniversary and seeing all the alumni engagement there. I can speak on that Friday of spring break. We had our house party with all the alumni at our house, and I had the benefit of speaking with one of our founders, Bussy Charles Alsup, and I was up there on the back deck, and I was just speaking with him and getting to know him. And we were looking down over the crowd, down in the grass and by the tree, and it's just, you see all these jerseys, and you see all these numbers from number 7 to number 20 to 300 to 1,000, and I was talking with him on how, they had no idea what Eta Iota was going to be. They did not imagine that it was going to be over 1,000 brothers and 55 years. That we would still be here, and the effect that it would have on everyone. And it was a really chilling feeling being up there with him and realizing that because of him and what him and all the other founders started, that we are here now and our lives were affected by it, and the 1,000 underbrothers before me were all affected by it, and possibly their lives were changed because of it. So I thought that was really interesting, and it was a really, really cool experience.
And then,
I've heard that story from Charles a couple times, and it still gives me chills. I wish, one of us in the crowd knew what was going on and had the forethought to get a photograph of it, because what a surreal moment to have a founder from 55 years ago and the current consul just having a moment away from the chaos and taking it all in. It's a pretty cool visual, and I think this is like the third time I've heard Charles tell the story, and it gets better every time. Not because the details change, but it is just such a unique moment that sometimes we get going so fast in life, we don't take that moment to pause and take it all in and just have that be where your feet are moment. And I think both between Bussy and Charles, that's something they're going to both remember for a long time.
Yeah, and just speaking to our alumni, when I was at that house party on Friday, I think I talked to one guy for about 30 seconds, but then his wife called him and he had to go somewhere. But as he was leaving, he came up to me, like gave me a hug. He's like, "I love you, brother. Just so you know, we may have only met. We know our first names, where we're from when we got initiated. But if you need anything, give me a call and I'll work it out for you." So just knowing that I have that support system behind my back for when I graduate and I have to end up looking for, a big boy job. These on-campus jobs can only get me until December when I graduate. I have this support system to get me, further on through my career. And, if I ever have getting some really dark times in my life, I'll have this support system as well. Just being able to call up, any one of my pledge brothers, anyone in our Facebook group in the directory, and, being able to have a chat with them, go get dinner, go get lunch. And our alumni are quite literally all over the world. So with my career, I want to be an airline pilot when I'm older. I want to join the Navy first, want to fly fighter jets, have a great time doing that. But just knowing that if I'm in Minneapolis or something, one of my best friends, Cal from the chapter, he graduated last spring, I'll be able to text him hey, let's go out to get lunch, or let's go watch a baseball game or something like that. So just knowing that I have those at my disposal post-graduation, honestly, for the rest of my life, then that just makes me feel so great about myself. And Ryan, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I want to. May I hijack your podcast for a second? You're obviously getting close to graduating, but you made the comment that you're just over a year as an initiated Sigma Chi member, which, for those of you that do elementary school teacher math like myself, means that you went through recruitment as an upperclassman. Just curious from both your perspective and Nick's. Oftentimes people think, man, I don't go through as a freshman and I don't want to join because I'm older. How has your experience been as an upperclassman joining the fraternity, and what advice would you have for maybe a non-Greek person listening to your podcast that's on the fence whether they should join or not?
Yeah, so pretty much, I'm just going to say this like this. Too late is, there's no such thing as that when you want to rush Sigma Chi. One of my best friends in this chapter, he rushed his first semester of his senior year. So he was only active brother for about 4 months. And in that 4 months, there were so many lessons that he got. He made some of the best friends of his life. And, to this day, I'll call him once a week. I'm like, "Hey man, what's up? Are you coming down for initiation? How's life? How's your job?" Cause he's up in New Jersey and I'm originally from Maryland. So it's about, 2-hour drive if it's rush hour, maybe 6-8 hours, something along there. But a lot of people, we have a handful of students who rush as juniors and seniors. And my only thing to the people who may be in their shoes, so you're ending your sophomore year right now, you just missed spring rush, come out, see if you like it. We'll welcome you with open arms. I'd rather see someone get pledged and initiate and only have a year being active and the rest of their whole life as being one of our alumnus than, walking across the stage on graduation and really thinking what if I rushed? What if I pledged? Because Sigma Chi, it's not just, and any fraternity, it's not just the years that you're in college, but it's the lifelong bonds, the lifelong connections, and the lifelong friends that really make it, really important for everyone. So that's just what I really want to hammer out. So if you're listening to this and you're older, come out to Fall Rush. We're going to have a really good Rush t-shirt. I'm working on it right now with the VP of Recruitment. Be excited. And hopefully we're going to break our record. And I think on the board, our goals board, we have 250 new members in the fall is what we want to do. So we want to see 250 paddles get raised on bid day next semester.
James, what I will add, and Ryan, Love that question because it is something that in undergrad, where I went, it was normalized to join in your first year, but we were a deferred recruitment campus. So everyone joined in spring, no matter if you were a fraternity or sorority. But if you didn't join as a first year, there was like this internal community shaming. And my fraternity and Chi Alpha, we actually welcomed a ton of juniors and seniors. We also were a very big chapter on campus that welcomed vets of any age. And I know that the chapter at Embry-Riddle of Sigma Chi, they do the same thing. And I'm also going to say almost any chapter does there. And I think that's what's amazing is I do not think there's a perfect time to join. Actually, I'll back up. The perfect time to join is when you're ready, is when you as an individual are ready to join, as opposed to whether you join your first semester or even your last semester of your graduating year. James put it perfectly. I think the best fraternity sorority leaders I've ever met were in their last semester because, again, they knew how to take advantage of the opportunity put in front of them. So I cannot encourage this enough, especially as a fraternity sorority advisor. Join when you feel ready, but do not ever feel guilt or shamed on when you join, because it is all about when you want to go through the process. And if the organization that you're interested in is offering with welcome arms, yeah, you know what? Hey, you only have a year left, but we'll take you. Sprint for that group because that's a group that you want to be in.
I think one of the only downsides to joining a fraternity as an upperclassman or maybe in your senior year is that we only get less time with you. So I can attest to one of our other brothers, Peter Duda. He joined as a senior. Absolutely love him. I love him. He's a great man. And the only downside to it is that he left, in that spring, and he pledged in that fall. And I had less time with him because of that. But I'm extremely grateful that he joined when he did.
Yeah, it was like the blink of an eye, and he was gone, which I was really sad about because, it was one day he just got initiated, and we were walking over to Wawa from the house, which for those of you guys who don't know, it's about a 20-minute walk. We were hungry, and we didn't feel like driving, so we just, picked ourselves up by the bootstraps, walked over to Wawa. I think we ate on the sidewalk, and then we walked back to the house. But, having only a couple months of being able to have fun with him like that really put into perspective that these 4 years are short. They feel like forever, but it's what comes after that counts. And also another thing that I want to hit on is, especially at Embry-Riddle, we do get a lot of veterans who come to this school. And a lot of them are older, and they're kind of like, oh, I don't want to rush a fraternity. Like, it's just a bunch of 18-year-olds. I wouldn't really want to fit in. Well, my advice to those veterans is give it a shot. My big, Marty, he was in the Army. He pledged when I believe he was 33 or 34. We treat him the same as, if he was just some freshman from, straight out of high school. He still hangs out with us. He still went to our parties. And, just if you really want to find a good friend group on campus, somewhere to, lay your heart into, some place to share your feelings, some place to be vulnerable, give Greek life a shot. Because I can promise you, you've seen the movies. Ryan, I know you're wearing the backwards baseball cap right now, but we're not those benching on shirtless outside every day, backwards baseball capped, like dude type guys. I promise you, we're not all like that. So definitely give it a shot. You'll find your home eventually at FSL here at Riddle. And Ryan, I didn't mean to take any shots at you. I just saw you wearing the backwards hat. So
It's all good, James. I'll hold in my Baltimore Ravens jokes till the end of the podcast when we're not recording. I'll get back at you.
I mean, it's the off season, so those jokes don't hurt as much. But if it's playoffs, then it'll be a bit of a different story.
Fair trade, brother. Fair trade.
All right, but anyways, moving on. So that was mainly about Sigma Chi. We did talk about this a lot in the last question, but the Eta Iota chapter specifically. How has this chapter impacted you for the better? And Damiano, I can't call you Nick. I'm sorry. It just feels weird coming out of my mouth. But Damiano, how about you start us off first, being our advisor for the past 5.5 years?
100%. I'm going to start with that. It was funny because earlier you called me Nick, and I was like, wait, what's going on here?
It sounded
What
weird.
reality is this?
Felt
Looking
weird
around
to
and
say.
seeing who the fifth guy on the podcast is. Who's this Nick person?
I'll start with that. And I always love sharing this because it's a testament to the absolute respect this chapter holds for their mentors and the people who support them. And I really want to emphasize this because this is where, again, if I had to put this blueprint of a model chapter, this would be one of them. And I remember my first phone call was with Chris Halprin, who was consul in fall 2020. So I got a half year of Halprin. And when I called him on the phone, he just automatically called me Mr. Damiano. And at that point, I was 28. I was like, okay. Mr. Damiano is my father. Thank you. But it stuck with it. And then 2 weeks later, I remember meeting, it was Ron Veer. Ron Veer is Ronnie, who ended up becoming one of my IAC officers, actually. And then Gary Wagner, who was a brother who graduated, I think, that semester that I met him. And they walked in to talk about risk management. And it was an entrance, I will say that much. But they also addressed me as Mr. Damiano, and it just stuck with the chapter. And they were the only chapter on campus to call me that, other than the Leander Kai brothers. But again, it just stuck with it. And it's so funny that I think these students know my first name because, again, of my office and emails, but the alumni, I was never introduced to alumni by my first name. It was just Mr. Damiano. But what the chapter has really done for me, again, like I shared earlier, is make me love this work more. And prior to me being at Embry-Riddle, I was a graduate student at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I did not work with the Sigma Chi chapter up there, actually. I knew they were there. They have a beautiful house up there, but I did not work with them. And it really, in my career, just showed me how an organization, especially a fraternity, can really find that balance. And Sigma Chi talks a lot about their RBC. So, and in the order, Ritual, Brotherhood, and Club. And when I learned that, I really started using it a lot with the brothers, and honestly, with other organizations. And I think the chapter here really has balanced that. I do think they know how to. It's a pendulum, right? It's a pendulum of they know how to properly swing that pendulum throughout the semester and throughout the academic year. What the organization also really taught me as well is what it means to define masculinity in today's age. And Sigma Chi teaches it healthily. I have to say it, they do. And the chapter here, yeah, sure, I did instill some of that into them, but just naturally, and something that I teach my students, especially my male students, is to not be afraid to say the 3 words, I love you more, right? I love you. And as men, we're in an epidemic of male depression and male suicide, and we need to really address this. And fraternity should be at the forefront. And I feel that when I instilled that in the chapter from day one, their retention is stunning. The guys continue to show up. Sure, a lot of them, as I call them, they will become bricks or ghosts. Okay, but however, they're still reachable and they're still somewhat involved. But what I will share about the whole I love you thing is halfway during my time at Embry-Riddle, we lost Hayden Richhart in a tragic plane accident. And what that loss taught me was a lot. My first year at Embry-Riddle, I lost a student, Brendan White, of Phi Gamma Delta, and that was traumatic. I knew Brendan well. And then I knew Hayden from day one. So I remember handing Hayden his little Sigma Chi bid card in the envelope before he went to go raise his paddle up. So I mentored Hayden through, I saw him through his pledgeship, and he attended the 55th. He attended the 50th. So then I talk about how old I feel. I remember the 50th vividly. And I saw him through there. I saw him through risk manager, house manager, and then he became consul kind of out of nowhere. But I felt it was at the perfect time that the chapter needed it. And I had the honor and privilege of mentoring him. And unfortunately, we lost him, and the loss was tough. The loss was tough on the community, on the international fraternity, but most importantly, the brothers. Hayden is, no matter if he's not with us physically, is a kindred spirit. Just a ball of joy, a ball of energy. And the way, I will say this, the international fraternity reacted to it, I have to give them their flowers, because they actually got involved. They actually supported the chapter. They showed up, whether it was virtual or in person. And I remember there was a Zoom call that the CEO, Michael Church hosted. And I have to say this, I say it all the time. One of the best CEOs in the field. I have to say it. Truly. The way he has led this organization is amazing. But I say this because I was invited to attend this. And at that point, I was very close to the chapter, let's be honest. But that's what really bonded me with the chapter, was how they included me in this. And I remember him giving this stunning speech to the guys in the chapter room and the guys who were virtual. We had guys working. Jack Archibald, I remember he was a valet that summer, and he was, I think, just sitting by a wheel of a car and just letting his feelings out. And just the way he guided the brothers and everyone in that room. And it was something to behold. And then how the chapter aggressively, I say this, aggressively trusted me in creating this celebration of life for Hayden, was something special. And I obsessed over it. I obsessed over every little detail. I obsessed over how I wanted it to go, how I wanted it to be. It even got to the point to where, and I didn't know this until halfway that night at the celebration of life, the guys gave me a shadow box of a jersey, and it was his actual jersey. It wasn't like a replica. It was his jersey, and they said, "We trust you. Put it in your office." And to have that is an overwhelming honor as an advisor. And then I kept it until the brothers made me an exact replica, and I still have it in my office at FAU. It is on the second shelf of my bookshelf. It's a little Simicai display, and I love it. But again, I think the organization taught me so much. Again, like I shared about how to show up as an advisor, how to teach young men how to lead with love, how to lead with values, and also how to have some good, serious fun, but safe fun. And that is where I have also mentioned this several times. This organization takes safety seriously. And I think that is why they are a respected chapter at the Embry-Riddle campus and also internationally, right? Knock on wood, they don't get in trouble for making poor choices, right? Because they make the smart choices prior. But I know that was long, but I mean, I can speak on so much about what the chapter has meant to me. But the past 5.5 years, and I know I'll continue to mentor the group from afar, but the past 5.5 years have been nothing but a distinct honor.
And I'd say for me, obviously the fraternity as a whole, I'm gonna have these lifelong connections, but you'll probably never meet like a Sigma Chi chapter that's as focused on our careers as this one. We all come to this school knowing I want to be a pilot, I want to be an engineer, and we take that along with us throughout our entire time here, and that's what comes before anything. Like before we do anything, before we even think of going out or hanging out with friends, we got to make sure. All right, did I study for this flight? Yes, I did. Am I gonna get enough rest tonight? Yes. And once I answer yes to all those, prereqs for me wanting to hang out with friends, and then I'll go out, which honestly makes me sound like such a nerd. But I can promise you that's like 99% of this school is how focused we are on our academics. And when you put all of these guys together in one fraternity with the same goal in mind, we're gonna build each other up. I know the pilots, we have our own group chat in the chapter where we ask for advice on check rides, what do the different systems in the Cessnas do. We have our alumni who are in the airlines flying for the military. It'll be like 1 a.m. on a Tuesday, and they'll send a video of them doing like a barrel roll in a fighter jet. And like, this was me, by the way. And one of our alumni brothers who I've been talking to for a little bit recently, he just got his Wings of Gold from the Navy. So fingers crossed, that's going to be me in about, I think, 2-3 years. I think that's how long pilot training is for the Navy. And then I'll be able to, continue that on in the group chat, help the younger guys out who want to go my path. And then we have the ROTC guys as well. We have the engineers, business majors. We have, one of our brothers who's had like every single major at least one time, and will be able to help you out for whatever you want to do at this school.
Yeah, I think I've heard it before. Actually, I heard it at the 55th, and it kind of stuck with me. But having the viewpoint that Sigma Chi, Eta Iota members have two bonds. First one being Sigma Chi, and the second one being aviation. And that second one, the aviation, us having that bond, we're very goal-oriented in what we want to do. And I have nothing but to agree with everything that James said. Mr. Damiano, I had a question for you. So back earlier in what you were talking about, just saying, like, I love you more. Right now we're in the period of applying for FSL awards. Very exciting time. And I saw one that I hadn't really heard a lot about yet, but were you the one that had created the Leading with Lollipops Leadership Award?
I love how Ryan, do you know that video?
It's one of my favorite TED Talks. Absolutely. Yes, I use it a lot.
This is give him a bid. I mean, listen, that video is something. Ted Dudley. I don't know. Actually, I don't know how I found it. I'm pretty sure a mentor gave it to me. But that video I show every year at the Executive Leadership Summit at Embry-Riddle. And I remember one day I was like, we need some more, FSL awards. And I created it. And I did it, Charles, because it has been my MO on leadership, because here is the thing. We far too often go through life, and like Ryan said this, we just sprint through life and we do not slow down and go, hold on, where are we at? What are we doing? What is happening? But also, when was the last time we actually thanked someone for something? As simple as, hey man, thank you for grabbing me some food at the refueling station, or the Chick-fil-A line long because, it was long, or, thank you for picking me up from campus because I didn't want to park because there's no parking, or as complex as staying up late and help me with flight, business, something. We far too often go through life and we don't thank people enough. And when we do, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little passive. It's a little passive, right? Really getting out there. Thank you. Handwritten letters is something you all know that I adore and love. I have a whole basket out in my office at FAU. And the brothers, when I left, it was a binder that every brother gave me a handwritten note. Hey, thank you for this, right? I think what's important about understanding, and I'd love to hear from Ryan's perspective, is the reason why Lollipop Moments really inspires me is, yes, I can right now, for example, I was lucky enough with me and my mother, we created a scholarship with Lambda Chi Alpha nationally with our education foundation for undergrads to attend our conferences, whether it's our General Assembly, which is like our national chapter almost, or any of our institutes in January. And it's great. I love it. I'm blessed that I've been able to do that. And I love that my fraternity has been able to shepherd this. But it's not the fact that me and my mother did it. It's the fact that my mom wanted to meet me halfway with matching me with how much I was going to put into the scholarship. But it's also the impacts I'm making on these young men. And the only thing that I wanted when I made this scholarship was I just want a handwritten thank you card from that person who got it every year. That is it. That's simple, right? This summer, when I go to our General Assembly, I will I will meet the person or two, because I think I gave them 2 or 3 this year to pull from, but I'll be able to meet them. And just all I want to hear about is, what does Lambda Chi mean to you, right? Why does it inspire you? But things like that, so small moments. But Ryan, I'd love to hear from you on how that video has changed you.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to take it. I'm gonna try to wrap both questions into one. And I think I can use the same story for both. So my oldest son, Braden, 21 years old now, he goes to Embry-Riddle in Prescott. He's a member of the Sigma Chi chapter there. He is I think he goes to Embry-Riddle and is a Sigma Chi because of the alumni in our chapter. The unique thing that you will all realize, regardless of what field of aviation you go into, but especially the pilots, is your career is going to take you all around the country, and you're going to show up and be able to stay on people's couches, and people are going to come stay on your couches, and you're going to meet their families. And remember when Braden was early in his high school career, and as young men, it goes back to everything we've been talking about, the not being afraid to say that I love you, not being afraid to be vulnerable and show your emotions. And and all young men, not all young men, most young men go through that phase where you show affection for your friends by teasing and just being silly boys. And Braden was probably going through one of those phases. And I remember pulling him aside one day, and I had my little brother, who is a pilot, an Embry-Riddle graduate, in our backyard, and another Sigma Chi who he'd never met before that happened to be in town at the same time on a work trip, not from Embry-Riddle, but just happened to be there. And I pulled Braden aside and I said, I just want you to sit and listen tonight. This is how men treat each other. This is how brothers treat each other, and participate in the conversation. But I want you to pay attention to the level of respect that is just there because of the bond of our fraternity, the bond of our brotherhood. And he did. And to me as a parent, it was such a pivotal moment. It was a lollipop moment without going out of my way. And, I was able to offer him something in a time of need that he maybe didn't realize at that point he needed. I always like to associate him as one of those people that, as a non-air science major at Embry-Riddle, when I was there, the pilots always would stand out at you because an airplane would fly over and they wouldn't even look up. They'd be like, "Oh, that's the Delta Airlines jet that's going to Atlanta that just left at this time." And I'm like, nerds. But I was also a little bit jealous. And I was like, man, Braden wasn't that guy. And then I had another alumni that reminded me, like, hey, I wasn't that guy either. But I love aviation, and Braden's passion for aviation came from the alumni from Embry-Riddle that would come through and spend time in the backyard with us or sleep on our couch and just display to him, what love looked like. And one of our past Grand Consuls of Sigma Chi, Dick Hester, used love as an acronym, living our values every day. And and that was one of those things that I was able to give as a gift to my son, the ability to watch that, to grow up in that environment. And I wouldn't have had that if I was just a student that wasn't, involved in something bigger than myself. So lollipop moments, what the alumni and what Embry-Riddle experience has gained for me in my life, man, all wrapped into one. And as a parent, I couldn't be prouder of both. More proud, prouder, both proud, both. I'm going to say both, more proud and prouder.
Yeah, very well said. As Charles said, we do have FSL awards coming up. My favorite time of the year. Every other year I've been, it's a drum roll because I'm like, oh, did my chapter win it this year? Did my president win it this year? But I'm really excited. I think it's April 23rd, so we got a little under a month. For those of you guys listening, if I get this out before the due date, which I probably will, I'm posting this tomorrow. It will be due Monday by midnight. So if you guys want to submit an FSL award, get all the things, because I know I'm still working on mine. Get them in by Monday, and then we're going to vote on them, and then show up April 23rd, I believe in ICI 101, or no, IC 101. I remember, I know I confused the two a lot. I actually sent my pledge class to the ICI one day because I mixed up IC and ICI, and it was one of those IOC mandatory events. I was the only one there from my pledge class, and all the older brothers were looking at me like, "Where's your pledge class?" And I said, "Oh, I told them to go to the ICI 101." And they looked at me like I was, like a bewildered face. I'm like, "Is this not ICI 101?" And they're like, "No, this is IC 101." So I felt bad because they had to walk all the way from the other side of campus, which it's about a 15-minute walk. Usually it's not that bad during the day, but I'm pretty sure it was raining that afternoon. So that was not very fun. But yeah, moving on. So obviously everyone in this call is involved some way with their fraternity, just being outside of an active. Today me and Charles, we just finished our ritual peer training, which for Sigma Chi, it's pretty much we grade, evaluate, mentor chapters on their ritual. So we just did that training today. It was about, 6 hours long? I liked it. It was really fun.
6 to 7 hours long.
Yeah. We had a great time doing it. We're both certified now, so I guess for you two, have spent more time volunteering and working for your chapters. How can someone who's about to graduate and who wants to be involved but may not have the most time in the world, how do you think they can get involved?
Ryan, go for it.
Yeah, man, so many different ways. Wherever, we have right now in Sigma Chi about just under 240 chapters or associate chapters. So just about anywhere you end up at, there's going to be a Sigma Chi chapter and an opportunity to give back at the local level, which is, sometimes the easiest place to give back, because you can go and you can get involved. We're always looking for volunteers, for mentors, for people that are just willing to give back in any capacity. From there, you can give back at the international level, and that's what I started doing for myself. The closest local chapter was a couple hours away, and so I started going to our international conference every summer and facilitating there, and which led to more and more and more. I've now 20 plus years as a really involved volunteer. There's very little in the fraternity that I haven't had the opportunity to do, because when you raise your hand and you do good work, man, people call on you to do things again. But there are little jobs, there are big jobs, there's things for you everywhere. And one of the things that I want to always mention, always for any of our undergrads, is to use the network. I think the first thing you can do in getting involved is to build your network. And so every alumni you meet, add them on LinkedIn. Send them a little note. Hey, Nick talked about that gratitude piece. A little note. Hey, I enjoyed visiting with you today. Hopefully our paths cross again. And when you're then applying for jobs and you realize, hey, this person that I met works for United Airlines or Delta Airlines or Lockheed Martin, those are those connections that will open doors for you on a personal sense as well. And that's part of the giving back as well, helping other brothers to navigate, their career options. So there's so many ways to get involved. And what I'm most proud about the two of you, and I know, Charles, you said, well, I don't know where I'm going to be yet, but when your time is right, in the Air Force, we know that you will be also. But James is already looking at getting involved, and he hasn't even graduated yet. So creating those opportunities to yourself, saying yes when the questions come in, because sometimes we're nervous to give back. But don't be afraid to say yes. And don't be afraid to say, hey, I tried this and it isn't for me. What else is out there? There are people that want to work on house corporations, that want to work with the undergraduate officers, that are skilled in facilitating and want to teach leadership and life skills to our members. There is something for everyone out there to be able to give back and create your own alumni journey.
I forgot who said it during our 55th, but someone kept telling me, whenever you get the opportunity, just say yes. When I found out that we were having this training, not just locally but on campus, so I could 5-minute walk. I had my parking spot. I signed up right away. I texted Charles hey, can you throw me on that list? I think before you even told the chapter. Mm-hmm. And then after, when we finished, Scott Quinn, Grand Praetor for the fraternity, came up to me and Lucas Blumquist, knowing that we're both on IFC, that we were some of the older guys in there who were staying in town for a little bit. And he offered us, the position that, since we're both undergrads and it's usually an alumni position, that, we might have the chance to be joint ritual mentors for a chapter in our province. We're not sure which one it is going to be yet, but I just know we're going to have a great time doing it. And then once we do that, we're going to be volunteers for the fraternity. I want to do it for the rest of my life until, I get to that age when I just want to sit on my couch and watch, old Westerns all day. But, as for the near future and maybe next 50 years, I'm definitely going to try and be as active as I can.
Yeah, you say your whole life until your wife gets mad at you and doesn't want you to volunteer anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to share, I'm going to start with a Lambda Chi story, because really that's where I began. As I'm here at my alumni weekend here at Rollins College, my advisor, we call him a Hi Pi, his name is John Baker, and I never truly appreciated John until I left undergrad, but I don't think most people do until they're older. And then one of the biggest things, too, I have to say, is how John was never afraid to tell it like it is. Just directly, here's the reality, here's the truth. Secondly, he was a model for what it means to give back. So by coincidence, IFC Bid Day, Fraternity Bid Day at Rollins College was always on his wedding anniversary. Every single, my 5.5 years there, right? And guess who was there? Every single bid day, John Baker. And it really just, I remember one day I was in chapter and I was like, yo, John's here on his wedding anniversary. Like this man is like he needs to be with his wife, Lori. And I just remember being like, we need to give him something. So every single time he came in for bid day to celebrate with us, we always gave him and his wife like a lovely little basket, right? Of all kinds of things. But here's the thing, Charles, how you mentioned the wives. I have seldom seen a wife to actually, or a partner, really get upset with their partner and saying, "Hey, why are you doing this?" This now goes into Lambda Chi for Embry-Riddle. When we celebrated our 50th on campus last fall, so about almost a year and a half ago, the advisor there, Mark Hayward, who 3 years ago got our highest honor as alumni. It's called Order of Merit, and it is a high honor. And I loved writing up letter of recommendation, and then I gave a gift in his name because it was such a big deal. And Mark has now been the advisor for over 30 years at Embry-Riddle. He didn't even go there. 30 years. He's the longest serving advisor ever at Riddle history. And Mark, he's a vet, pretty serious guy, but you would never expect that he had this powerhouse of a wife. Every chapter meeting he was there, he showed up, whatever. But here's the thing, at the 50th, he gave his speech. And I first met Mark on November 22nd, 2013, when I was initiated in Lambda Chi Alpha at Embry-Riddle, because you all know that I was initiated there because I was founding father. And so I've known Mark quite actually since I was 19 years old, and I'm now 33. Mark stood up on that stage. At the end of his speech, he gave a shout to his wife. He couldn't even say half of her first name until he started crying. And y'all does do the same thing. At y'all 55th, we're like, y'all, that is where, like, that's how you give back, right? Is your partner supports you through that. And everyone got on their, at the Lambda Chi, everyone got on their feet, and we were screaming and hollering because she has been the biggest supporter of Lambda Chi and Embry-Riddle, right? Just like all partners have. But how to get involved really is seeing alumni like these. So I just shared with Ryan before we recorded, alumni week in here at Rollins. It's impressive to see how many people from the late 60s are showing up. They're showing up to this thing, right? And it's just amazing to see how much Rollins has meant to them and how they talk about it back then. That was 55 to almost 60 years ago. So it's all about being inspired as a young member, which guess what? Your chapter has. But there are 3 ways to give back as a volunteer: time, treasure, and talent. Okay. Time is just like, time can kind of go into treasure and talent, but time to me is just like phone calls, mentoring, right? Giving advice, being a sounding board, showing up to be a volunteer, showing up to be a peer mentor, ritualist, just physically being around. Treasure, that's donating, right? Whether that is $5 or $50 million, it does not matter. I will say this on behalf of any fraternity or sorority: any dollar you give is impactful. Trust me, right? It's all about giving and supporting. And then talent. Talent, I think, is one that I'm now really stretching in my arm as a Lambda Chi Alpha, is I work in the field. So I happen to be a fraternity and sorority advisor, and I'm now helping other chapters across the country with how they approach their FSL work, how they work with their FSL advisors on campus. But with the talent piece, your chapter excels at it, right? Whether you're a pilot, you're in the armed forces, you're in business, you're an engineer, right? That is a talent piece. You're mentoring, you're showing up, you're being an expert in your field. And I will say this too, a story. So William McNeil, otherwise known as Silly Willie, one of my I'm going to say one of my favorite Sigma Chi's. I mean, really, all of you are my favorite Sigma Chi's. But Will was my risk manager on IFC, and I remember right before he graduated, he goes, "Damiano, how do I get involved?" And I said, "Oh my God, let me tell you how." Right? So I told him all these ways. And I remember one day he called me. It was like 2 months after he graduated. He goes, "No, I'm serious." I said, "Okay." So I went online to the national website and I just listed off a bunch of people with titles. I'm like, "Okay, reach out to this person, this person, this person, this person, and just see what happens." And then I joked and I said, "Dude, go for Housing Corps. Like you're in Melbourne. He works for Northrop Grumman." Just as a joke, I said, "Oh, go for Housing Corps." Well, as of last weekend, he's now on the Housing Corps board, right? And it was so funny because no one told him prior, so I texted him and told him. But like I said, as a joke, like I said, it was just wild and how like he's now going to get involved. But Will genuinely just wanted to be involved. He didn't care what it was. But that's an example of like, don't be afraid to ask. And what I recommend to, especially anyone listening, but the Sigma Chi's at Embry-Riddle now, especially anyone who is newly initiated from this past year, get involved in on committees now in your chapter so you can discover from a young age how you want to give back when you're older, right? Some people are blessed to give their treasure instantly. Some people have to develop that treasure. That's the same for talent. Some people won't have that talent, but watch it develop, or they do instantly in time, right? But I say time is probably the most accessible one for any kind of volunteering. But I can't recommend it enough. Get involved, get involved. Any fraternity, any sorority, regardless of size or anything, they need your help. Pick up the phone, call headquarters, and if not, I'm saying seriously, call every number that's listed and email every email.
Yeah, and I know all the different fraternities on campus. They each have their own way of giving back. So those of you guys listening who may not be SIGs, reach out to your advisors, see if they need any help. See if, once you graduate, you can join your chapter's, advisory board, help out with the daily operations for the next couple of years. And, especially just graduating as a senior, you're still going to know people in the chapter for about the next 4 to 5 years. So even if it's nothing official, just be there to mentor them. Like I'm gonna use my big for an example again. He's an IP here at Embry-Riddle. I don't know how many hours he's at, but he's about to go on to PSA Airlines because he's one of their cadets. Whenever one of like the younger pilots in the group chat needs like a flight covered, they need with help anything related to flight. He'll usually text them back like within the hour. I know when I was finishing up my private check ride and I was struggling during that, I was able to, ask him how he got through that maneuver, how to handle through check rides, as well as the other CFIs in our chapter. One of them took me up for a flight. It was 5 a.m. one morning. I remember this story. I went to bed at, a reasonable time, like 9 p.m. the night before, because goody two-shoes, freshman year me, I had a strict bedtime. Now, not so much because I have a lot of homework and extracurriculars to do, so but I heard a knock on my door at about 5 a.m. and I was like, is this a joke or did I get in trouble with campus safety? So I open up the door and I see him. He has a flight bag. He's wearing his like flying clothes and I'm like, what's up? He's like, all right, bro, we're going flying. I'm going to teach you how to do this maneuver. We ended up getting to the plane at about 5:30. I was like, I don't know why I'm doing this. It's way too early in the morning. Everyone else in my dorm room is asleep. We ended up flying for about 2 or 3 hours at no cost to me. He covered the entire flight, which, I thank him every day for. And then I believe it was 2 days later I passed my check ride with the advice he gave me. So even if it's, as I said, you can't, if you can't volunteer officially, be a mentor at least if you want to stay involved with your chapter, because people in the chapter are going to remember the mentors that helped them the most out of everything.
I have something to add on with that as well. Last week during the 55th, I had the absolute pleasure of speaking to our Grand Consul, Ryan Timby, and he said something that stuck out to me, and I want to try and push out to not only my chapter, but also to everybody else that's in FSL as well. And it's realizing that, everything that you do for the betterment of your chapter and on your campus is great, but it's also not forgetting and also realizing that, it's not just your chapter, but you're part of a bigger fraternity and, a headquarters and so forth. And like, I'm not just a Sigma Chi at Eta Iota. I am a Sigma Chi. And that, I think that's kind of playing into what you said, Mr. Damiano, that, whatever you can give when you graduate, like, absolutely give it, whether it's time, talent, or treasure. But part of that is realizing that when you leave this place, it's not like it's over, and the undergrad is the end of your career of being a Sigma Chi, and that it will stay for you for the rest of your life, and you're part of something that's bigger than yourself, including, however many chapters we have, the other 200 chapters in the United States and Canada. And I think once you realize that I can give back to something that's bigger than me, you sort of have this notion to, whatever you can give, you will give it. So as you said, if I'm really, really busy, my life is going all over the place, but I have a lot of money, maybe I can donate to the chapter, I can donate to House Corps. If I have a lot of time and I've been trained, like today I got trained on a ritual pier, when I graduate and I go through my pilot training with the Air Force, after I'm done with that and I have more time on my hands wherever I am, I can use that training to give back and mentor whatever chapter is near me, not just the Eta Iota chapter.
Yeah, which definitely, a lot of people think when they're helping out with their fraternity, it's just their chapter. I can promise you it's not just your chapter. Back, in Maryland, where I'm from, I'll be at Chipotle, and where I used to work there, by the way. I promise I didn't hang out there every day as much as I'd like to. But I'd just be talking, and, coworker would bring up, oh, you're in a fraternity? I'm like, yeah, I'm a Sigma Chi. And some random dude in the line just, like, whips his head around. He's like, you're a Sig? And I'm like, yes, sir. He's like, oh, where at? I'm like, oh, Embry-Riddle. And he'll be like, I think the guy I met, he was from UMD, actually. So a pretty big school. I ended up covering his meal with my comp just because I wanted to talk to him more. We ended up talking about an hour just about like the differences, what he's done for his chapter, what I've done for mine. And he was like 50, 60 years old. And here I am, 19 years old, just talking to this guy about, his college life, and just knowing that those bonds exist with any Sigma Chi in the world. And, even if you're in a different fraternity, those bonds still exist. But yeah, just knowing that we have those bonds really makes me feel like I made the right decision in choosing to rush a fraternity. And, personally, I made my best decision rushing Sigma Chi out of them all. Charles, you got anything? All right. Anyone else got anything? Oh, Ryan?
I think just that last part, James, again, as Nick talked about, no generation has fallen farther faster than college age young men at this point. So how important it is to find your people, find your tribe, and to be involved in something bigger than yourself, because it's where you're going to find your mentors. It's going to unlock those life skills for you, and the connections that are going to take you to the next level in your career. So everyone out there listening, man, if you're in an organization, you found your people and enjoy that. But if you're, again, still on the fence about Greek life, it may or may not be for everyone. Maybe you're looking for a service organization, and again, these young men here just raised $60,000 last year, so they do have some club aspect to them. But yeah, they are also the part of the generation that's going to end cancer, and every fraternity or sorority has a philanthropy that they're involved with, and so you can give back in a service-oriented way. You're going to find almost someone that aligns with your value structure and what you're looking for within the walls of the organization you join. So never underestimate the value of Greek life.
I think something that was really interesting that you said last week, Ryan, when we were here on campus, was that every time that you raised your hand and you said yes to volunteer and give back to the fraternity, throughout your career, basically every time that you did that, your career progressed and you excelled in your career as well, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. No truer words, man. Including, you talked earlier and you said, make sure until your wife says no. Well, I found my wife at a Eta Iota birthday party, and so she has been part of Sigma Chi since day one, and so now she knows that she can't say no. And you know it's a winning program when you start hearing her recruiting Sigma Chi to our friends, moms and dads for their for their young men to look at when they go to campus. Pretty special thing we're part of.
Yeah, like it really is crazy to think that I'm 1045 in my chapter, but there's all these guys who are going to come after me and come before me that will change my life in one way or another. So yeah, if y'all don't have anything else to say, I hope you guys really enjoyed listening to this podcast. It's been weeks in the work, I'll say that, but I want to thank each and every one of you guys for coming out and listening, and I hope you enjoy your week. Good luck with finals. And yeah, remember to have a good day, get to bed early, and have a good night. See ya.